Every day when I get home from work, the first thing I do, I get inside the house and I take off my shoes, kick them off right inside the door. After a long day, my feet are tired and ready to breathe. It feels great to wear no shoes. Makes me feel a little free. It reminds me of being a kid where I would run around with no shoes and no shirt, born free. But there's another time when you might find me taking off my shoes. Not because my feet are tired, or I'm at a friend's house who has new carpet, or I'm just getting ready to take a shower, or I got new shoes that I want to kind of keep a little clean. No, there's a time when I take off my shoes because I'm standing on sacred ground. Now, you may, in the deep recesses of your brain, remember a story from the Bible that has something to do with taking off of shoes. Let me remind you. It was long, long ago in Egypt, and Moses had gotten himself in trouble. You see, he had killed a man. Now, it probably would have counted as justifiable homicide. This was a guy who was beating a slave nearly to death, but nonetheless, he knew he was trouble. He had killed the guy, and then he took off, and he wanted to get away, wanted to get a fresh start, said, okay, I'm out of here. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I've got to be gone. So he was walking along, maybe communing with nature a little bit, when suddenly he heard a voice, Moses, Moses. He looked around. What? Who? There was nobody around. There was actually nobody in 10 miles, maybe nobody in 50 miles, not even any sheep. But he looked around and he heard the voice insisted, Moses. And they said, what? For crying out loud. And then he looked over, and right next to him, there was a bush that had burst into flames. Oh my goodness, he said, this is crazy. Get a fire extinguisher, get some water. At least there's sand around. Let's put out that fire. This is terrible, a fire out of control. Now, actually, the area in Egypt was probably pretty similar, like the burned, dried up hills in San Diego. Not a place where you want bushes burning because it could spread so quickly. But then he rubbed his eyes, and rather than a fire burning out of control, it appeared that this bush was, well, it was burning, glowing, something amazing, something he had never saw before. And then the fire began to talk directly to him. It said, Moses, take off your shoes. He said, excuse me? Beg my pardon? This is not good barefoot place. This is, there's stickers. It's the grass. He said, take off your shoes. You are standing on sacred ground. And suddenly Moses knew this wasn't your everyday, ordinary burning bush. This was the divine, sacred voice of the universe, energy, divine consciousness itself, and it was talking to him. And so he did what he needed to do. As Martin Luther would have said a couple thousand years later, here I stand, I can do no other. And so he took off his shoes and he stood, just his feet as God standing on God. And God gave him his next guidance, his marching orders of what he must do. Now, as often happens with those kind of marching orders, he wasn't that thrilled with the idea at first because it sounded like he was being told to do something he couldn't do, that he didn't know how to do, and didn't know who would be able to help him. But God, the firing bush God, just said, say yes, and I, God, will be with you. And so Moses said yes and went, sandals in hand, humbled and in awe. After all, it's not every day that we stand on sacred ground. Is it standing on sacred ground?